pleasure to introduce you to our panelists and our moderator. Our first panelist, Patrick McGarry, who was introduced earlier. We are honored to welcome Patrick McGarry, an active member of both his community and profession. Patrick is the co-owner and COO of Hulse, Playfair McGarry Funeral, Cremation, and Celebration of Life Services. Could you not come up with a longer name? Which is Ottawa's largest locally owned funeral service provider. In 2025, Hulse, Playfair McGarry is celebrating 100 years of service, and you look great for that. Patrick is a licensed funeral director and has previously served as chair of the board of GFD and the Ontario Board of Funeral Services. He earned his executive MBA from the Telfer School of Management in 2020. Patrick has consistently demonstrated his unwavering commitment to both his profession and the community. So please join me in welcoming Patrick. Our next panelist is Becky Steckly, and I apologize if I haven't pronounced your name properly. Becky is managing director and co-owner of Dreisinger Funeral Home. Her journey in funeral services began in administration and led her to earn her funeral director's license from Humber College in 2016. In 2020, she and her business partner, Laura Riley, purchased Dreisinger Funeral Home. As the current president of the Ontario Funeral Service Association, Becky is committed to fostering collaboration with the bereavement sector. Please give her a warm welcome. She joins us. Thank you. Our third panelist is Angie Aquino, and Angie is President Funeral Operations of the Mount Pleasant Group. She has dedicated over, can I read this number, 45 years to funeral and cemetery management. I didn't realize breaking child labor laws to do so. She began her career at Prospect Cemetery and rose through leadership roles before becoming president in 2013. As co-chair of the Government Relations Committee for the Ontario Association of Cemetery and Funeral Professionals, she continues to advocate for the profession. Please welcome Angie. And last but not least, guiding our discussion today, and expertise and insight in the panel, is Heather Kiteley, our own president and CEO of GFD, bringing 30 years of experience. My God, how did you do that? A second-generational funeral director, she has dedicated her career to helping people navigate end-of-life planning with compassion and foresight. Her passion for pre-need bereavement planning has been the driving force behind her professional journey, fueled by her continuous appetite to learn and grow. Please welcome Heather.
Do you have one? Are we sharing? We'll share. We're going to share. Awesome. Hey, everybody. Nice to be up here again. I want to take a minute just to set up this discussion a little bit. And I have the wonderful privilege to sit down with most people in this room on a regular basis to talk about change that's happening within our sector. And I think most of us would agree that the sector is facing unprecedented change. And along with that comes uncertainty and difficult conversations. We can have disagreement sometimes on the direction that we need to go. And I think we've coined the term at GFD that we talk about these as spicy discussions. And we have to have these spicy discussions because this will all help us navigate towards the future. And so I want to say something about the folks on this panel and why they were selected. I've had the opportunity over many years to have multiple spicy discussions with everyone that's up here. And they have been selected for our panel because they have proven over decades their ability to be able to navigate these difficult discussions from a place of respect and also from a place of courage, meaning they're not afraid to say what they think about certain things. And it's something I certainly admire about all of them. And one of the things that's very important to me as we navigate this change with GFD is just sort of modeling for the sector how we can have these really difficult discussions, how important they are, and that we can do that from a place of love and respect as we move forward. So I hold these folks in high esteem. So thank you so much for being here. Thank you. Yeah, it's awesome. Okay, so now my expectation is that you're going to bring the spice.
You're supposed to give us permission to be spicy with each other. And everybody here will know that, you know, we like each other, but we're going to get spicy. You're supposed to give that permission.
That's true. Consent is important at GFD.
Exactly. I have a bad reputation, so I want to make sure it's...
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so there's so much to unpack from that research, I think everyone would agree, right? Like just a lot of stuff. And so it's really hard to figure out where do we want to start. And so I think we're going to go through some questions, get the panelists' thoughts on some of the things that they're doing, and then so we'll do that for about half an hour, and then we're going to open it up for discussion within the group. And I think we'll start with the themes, right? I think that's probably the easiest way to go. So I want to start with that theme of trust, and I think that somebody spoke about this earlier, about we have this sense in the sector that, the W5 exposés and the things that we hear through the media, and I think what's really wonderful about the research is the fact that people trust us. And so those values that build trust, so compassion, professionalism, trustworthiness, what are the practical ways that your team is delivering on these values? And I'll start with you, Patrick, and then we can sort of work our way over.
Okay, thank you. I think it really comes down to as simple as be who you intend to be. Be clear with your team about what your company's mission and vision is, and challenge each other to live up to that, you know. My experience in funeral service, and I didn't grow up in funeral service, but I started as a summer job, and only a summer job 34 years ago, was that the people that were involved in funeral service and cemetery service were people that liked to help other people, got satisfaction from doing so, didn't realize that it was a 24/7 business when they joined. But quite frankly, they get satisfaction from that. So it's really just enabling our team and reminding the why, the why we are doing things, the why we do put in those long hours, the why we put ourselves in situations that, we step forward and most will step back, and supporting that. So it is a tough, not only our sector, but every sector is finding challenges with the economy and, increased regulations, HR challenges. We're all the same out there. And, but from our perspective, it's about be who you intend to be, and because we're good people, and that's how you build the trust. And I think, the numbers show that.
Certainly, I think trust is something that is earned, and I think that to earn someone's trust, you just need to be that honest, reliable person, and people see that when they come into your facility, but they also see it out in your community. So I think we are all the kind of people that when we're in the community, you know that you're a reflection of the funeral home, so you convey yourself in a way that you're reflecting positively on yourself, your funeral home. I think you're the best kind of advertising that you can be. You are.
Wow, good answers. What I would add to that is building connections. And you're building connections not just with the potential clients and the clients that you're serving, but also with each other. We are in a cemetery and funeral combination organization, so it's really important that our teams are working together because they're serving the same client, and clients can see that they can deal with any one of us and not necessarily feel that we are looking to do more or upsell. I mean, that is really the word that you hear about our industry, and it's important that clients feel that we are being our authentic self and we are being transparent. We're not providing pressure for them to make their decisions, because these are really important decisions that take a long time for some, and it could be, months if they're pre-planning before they decide what their final options that they're going to select are going to be. So I think connections is really important, and then I also think having a pulse. The pulse is whether it's with your clients. So client surveys are important. Touching base, asking how did we do? Is there anything else that we can do for you so that we can learn and grow from that? But then also, because we're serving our clients through people, our employees are extremely important. And having a pulse on the employees is also a key. Having those speaking of clients, having employee surveys and understanding what more we can do to ensure that they're being well taken care of so that they can then take care of the clients. And it all goes back to, in my opinion, connections and being transparent and authentic.
I have to interrupt because I bit my tongue. You used the word pulse twice just recently, and I always say no pulse called Hulse. That's how it goes. That goes back to 1925 humor in Ottawa. No pulse called Hulse, where we'll Playfair, and then we added McGarry will carry. So there you go.
That's the spice.
No, I don't even know what that is. It's interesting, Patrick, one of the things that you said there, not there, but earlier, when you were contributing, was how you talk about that moment where you realized what the people in the sector were like, right? And one of the things that I hope, with the podcast that GFD is doing, I'm hoping that the public kind of hear them so that they can hear how amazing the people in this profession are. Like, there is no other profession in the world that has the kinds of people like we have here in this room and we have everywhere all across Canada. It's something that people need to know. Do you have any thoughts on how GFD can help amplify that, right? So we already know that we're fairly trusted, but how can we help amplify and have people know who the authentic people really are that are behind the suits and behind the serious conversations that we have? We'll maybe start, who wants to take that one on first? Anybody? We'll go this way this time. Angie, we'll start with you. We'll put you on the spot.
You have incorporated into your AGM more than just an AGM, that there is education. The researches that you're doing, I think, are helpful. Your podcasts, I think, are also another way of highlighting some of the members and providing more profile.
Awesome, thanks. Any other thoughts from our panel? I'm selfishly using you to help me in our work.
Okay, to amplify the trust in GFD. Who here uses GFD?
Well, really, no, thank you.
No,
I'm more interested in how can we amplify to the public the amazing people behind the profession, as opposed to GFD.
That's it. When you have customer service issues, when you need someone to help you, GFD is incredible. When you have a problem, it doesn't happen very often, but when you do, they take care of you, and that builds trust. And when you're building trust with us, with the funeral directors, with the owners and the managers, that trust is then conveyed to the people that we are arranging with because we have that trust in you. I think also another thing that is a good reflection and a good way to build that trust is to be passionate about what you do. And I think as a funeral director who's very passionate about my career, I can see that in Heather. I can see that in certain people that work with GFD, that they love what they do, they care about the people they work with, and that to me is a trust builder as well.
You're very kind.
I'm going to jump to George. I don't see George right now, but even the comment that he provided to the floor there on his suggestions on how to look at marketing at different age brackets or whatever your strategic planning for your community is. That's a tool that is phenomenal for funeral directors and funeral home owners who are, we're busy doing a lot of other things. And as Becky said, knowing that we don't have to worry about our things being done properly on, the administration side is is very comforting. It allows us to focus on the things that we want to focus on. And then, kudos to GFD for adding the name of Canada as well. In these times where there's a lot of elbows up and other things, and we are a locally owned operator, and I'm thinking, well, this is nothing new. You should have always been supporting local, but now people are doing that, and so Canada, we should be proud, and so using that, having that name, and then the materials behind that GFD provides is something that's very helpful for us too. So I'm very proud of saying, your funds will be invested with a organization called Guaranteed Funeral Deposits of Canada. That's very comforting. And then I do mention about the fact that a lot of the investments are placed with credit unions, and credit unions really do help our communities because they're recycling those funds within our communities. And I don't know if anybody saw, who was it, TD's dividends, this announced yesterday. Credit unions are a little bit different. So anyways, that's how I think.
All right, let's transition over to what I think Michael referred to as the muddled middle, which I think is a great way to put it. Those stats to me were surprising. I'm not sure how everyone else felt about them. But the overwhelming lack of understanding, I think we all kind of feel that intuitively. When we meet with families, we have so much education that we have to do with them. So we feel it when we're in the arrangement office. But to see it statistically that there's so many people who have no idea what they want to do is really kind of a shocking statistic. So, and we talked about millennials, and I loved, Angie, the way that you talked about how the term funeral is evolving, and how do you feel that we can reframe the conversation to help people better understand or help them figure out what it is that they would like to do?
Who do you want to start? So,
You go for it.
Okay.
Yeah, go for it, Patrick.
So it comes down to education, and the only way you get through to get opportunity to educate is to build a trusting conversation. It doesn't start with what do you do? Well, I'm a funeral director. Oh, you must embalm bodies. Don't start with that. Start with something like, well, I help people celebrate the lives of their loved ones, and that's a very different path that you'll go down with somebody that you've met in the community than the other, and then correct them gently. My dad didn't want anything, so we just had a cremation, and then we went to the cottage, and we had everybody over, and then we had a scattering in the lake. Well, that's a funeral. There's all different kinds of funerals. So I think there's a lot of challenges today, for sure. You have to build conversations. You have to build trust. You have to. I'm trying a new thing where computers are out, and I'm trying to do all arrangements on 2 pieces of paper, and it's working pretty well actually, because it's about building that relationship, and the pen is down, and so anyways, I think when somebody says, "Oh, we didn't have a funeral, we did this." Well, funerals are a lot of different things, and a lot of people want gatherings. This is this is the first most exciting thing this week, because my daughter got married on Monday. No, she'll be mad. She was the first. This is the second most exciting. But it was amazing, because she, I guess, would be considered a Gen Z. And, there wasn't many corners cut on that wedding. There's a videographer, photographer, special cakes. They won't be doing thank you notes because they already had a thank you in the card that was on the table, that was already done with, pre-printed. And I asked the person next to me, like, how much did you contribute to this wedding? Because I got the same thank you card as you. But the point is that people, and especially that generation, and I think that's shown in the millennials too, is that they will pay for what they want. And for fun, I did a little AI thing last night to say, what is the cost of a funeral on average versus, renovating your kitchen? I picked that because I got that coming up. A funeral is a significantly less cost than renovating your kitchen. So, think about that and think about the life that that person lived. And anyways, I think there's lots of opportunities.
I would guess that your contractor is not apologetic about the price.
No. In fact, try to get one. Yeah, try to get one. We have to build demand. Brian McGarry always used to say, the problem with funerals is you can't build an appetite for funerals like hamburgers. It's like death rate's 100%, but there's only one. Yeah.
Well, I will disagree. I like to say that, hi, I'm Becky, and I am a great embalmer. That is a real good conversation opener. People are very inquisitive. They love to know that you're a funeral director. Even when I go out to the grocery store and I'm in my suit, people say, oh, what do you do, or where are you from? And people always ask questions. I don't know, maybe I'm more approachable than some funeral directors, but I think that there are some of us that kind of tend to shy away from our profession, and I'm not sure why we do that, but I'm a very proud funeral director, and I'm happy to talk to people about what I do and share different aspects of my career. But that being said, at our funeral home, we do have pre-need seminars to educate people, and that draws people that have an interest in learning. But we also try to go out to some community events. Our community does a mental health day. We have a multicultural festival as well, and we just go to give out treats and hand out whatever the theme of the day is. We'll do lemonade and Rice Krispie squares or something like that, but just having a presence. And people will just see our small sign, donated by Dreisingers, and then they say, oh, my mother is at the end of her days, and they'll ask questions. It's just a good way to get your face out there, to be trusted in the community, but also just to be there to answer questions that people wouldn't necessarily call to ask you, but because you're there, they may come forward and ask.
Thoughts on this, Angie?
I would agree with you, Becky. I do think we all should be very proud of what we do in this profession, and people do want to know more. I mean, death does seem a bit of a taboo to people until you start talking about what you do. And then they have all kinds of questions. And that just says that people want more information. So education is really important, but I think we need to do it in the way that speaks to them. And it may speak to them differently. It could be generational, it could be cultural, and I think those are key areas that we need to focus on. So what might work for one may not work for another. I think it's important that we know that our next up-and-coming clients are going to be the millennials, followed then by Gen Z. We focus so much on us boomers for years that we've not really paid as much attention to who's coming up next. They're the ones that are going with their parents oftentimes to make arrangements, or they're discussing other areas of decision making. So they do play a role. Technology plays a role. So I think these are all areas that we need to look at, and our language also needs to be more progressive. We can't think and speak in the old traditional way. That's not going to resonate with the next set of cohorts that are coming up. As I said earlier, funeral may not be the word for them. Interment may not be the word for them. Burial might be. We want to say cremated remains, but people say ashes, and there's nothing wrong with that. So I just think we need to be a lot more open and speak at their level and provide the information. Be flexible, be open, and be proud.
I think that all of you have touched on something, and specifically I want to build on what you just talked about, Angie, and that is the F word, funeral. It's a word that means something to each of us in the room that I think is that touches very closely to the core of who we are, right? It's in the label of which we call ourselves funeral director, right? And yet we might be, and I think that we are, facing an upcoming generation to whom that word might not relate to. And so I want to ask the panel here, have you explored other language, and have you found any other ways to talk about funerals that has resonated with that, especially that millennial cohort? I feel very strongly, and a lot of you have heard me talk about this before, that the millennial generation celebrates and performs ritual more more impactfully and deeply than any other generation really ever, right? They have gender reveal parties for all of us cynical Gen Xers, like really, you know? But it's wonderful and it's marvelous, and I think that they are going to transform our business as well. And so has there been any experimentation, if I can use that word, with alternative language? I think that's going to be very important for us to learn how to adopt. No different than when we went from being undertakers to funeral directors back in the day. Who wants to tackle that one?
Be a bomber.
Funeral services are definitely evolving, and our conversations do change, I think, depending on the people that you're speaking with as well. When we're making arrangements, I think people are very happy to say celebration of life over funeral. We're seeing a lot more of that. But it's nice to get to know the person who passed away so that you can structure your services around that. So if he was a big beer drinker that loved being out on the boat and hanging out with friends and having a rowdy crowd, you know, he's maybe not going to be that somber memorial service, and we might suggest having our services at the Legion with an open bar and a time of remembrances. So it's nice that we can customize and cater things to individuals' needs. As a millennial, I'm a little embarrassed. I like to identify as a Gen X, but I am a millennial.
No, you don't.
We are experienced people. We are not stuff people. We don't want mementos per se. We want the experience, and we want the experience to be memorable and meaningful. And I think if we can come up with ways to make memorable and meaningful services, that's what we want. So the language we use obviously needs to be a reflection of that. But as we talk to children on their level, we talk to the party animal on that level. We talk to the clergyman's wife on her level. You know, we talk to the person we're speaking with based on the services that you see fitting, or where they see their loved one would be best celebrated.
Memorable and meaningful. Let's just pause there for a second. Who does that better than us? Nobody. Nobody does that better than us. So I think that's the magic that we bring, and it's a matter of figuring out how we talk about that. So Patrick, over to you.
Yeah, those were some wonderful words, Becky. That was perfect, actually. And in my thing, I've had the honor of leading a couple of ceremonies lately for people that I knew a little bit, and incorporating those personalizations, those special things for the individual who died. But I tend to steal from Dr. Wolfelt a lot, and because I think he's just got a way with words and that simplify things about the importance of what is happening. And one of the things I've done is talk about, early on, like even before I introduce myself, why are we together today? And he talks about the fact that our attendance and the funeral or the celebration, whatever wording the family wanted to use today, is a gift to the person who died. And I find that really just gets people in the right frame of mind. And so really it comes down to not, listening, obviously, responding, doing those memorable and meaningful things. And you'd mentioned something about, funeral, the word funeral. And, I actually think baby boomers are the ones who are most against funerals today.
Really?
Yeah, it's like, baby boomers have always gotten everything they wanted, right? They were the special children after the war. They had the easiest generation. But it's all about, for them and whatever. You have to, and this is why one of the things that came out of last year's presentation was the importance of having the younger generations with those that are doing the pre-plannings, because I don't know about everybody else, but we're seeing a lot more people who are, going down the road of a direct cremation and maybe doing things, but not with us. So this is where, the conversations, building trust and all that come out. So that's where I think there's great opportunity.
You talk about Wolfelt, and that reminded me of when I first started thinking about how we need to change the way we talk to people, was when I was listening to Alan Wolfelt talk about If you're doing arrangements with academics, right? If you ask an academic, would you like to have a funeral? What's the typical answer you would get? Oh, no, I don't really want that, right? I'm an academic. I want something different. Or I just don't worry about me. And then he said, but if you ask an academic, would you like to have a reception? Universally, they say, oh, of course, which is exactly the same thing as a funeral, right? And so that was sort of a moment for me sitting in that audience going, oh my gosh, like we just need to talk to people differently. And to your point, we need to listen to what people are saying so that we can use the language that makes a difference to them. Thank you for that reminder. Angie, you got something to say here?
Well, I think the personalization, the flexibility, the openness are really the key piece. It's talking to them and asking how they want to be remembered. What's their legacy? It's about them. I think funeral director, the word funeral director has also changed over time. We're really event planners now because funeral, as I said earlier, means different things to different people. You're planning events, whether it's a reception, whether it's a memorial, whether it is a traditional funeral.
Do you
it is
find
still
that more
an event.
accessible? That word more accessible
I
to
think
people?
with younger generations, absolutely.
Sorry to interrupt you, but I was like, is that something that you're actually using and you find it helpful?
We certainly use it internally. We have used it with some families. Again, it's reading your audience, knowing who you're speaking to and what resonates with them. It may not be the word that you would use with a traditional family. Funeral might be the word you're using with them. It really is knowing who you're dealing with and what is it that they're wanting to build, to leave, what their legacy that they're wanting to leave is.
Interesting. So I think that what I'm hearing from the panel is that it's almost like being a little bit of a chameleon, right? And which, if you think about it, in funeral service, we're quite good at. And it's really a matter of listening and adapting your language to the person that is there in front of you.